Streets, hard to keep track as to where exactly he is.
Westbound on Slauson Avenue right now, heading on at pretty tremendous speeds. We've seen a lot of dangerous maneuvers. A pit maneuver was just executed by California Highway Patrol. It did not work. It was able to spin this car around and plant it on top of a median.
Look at that.
Somebody
okay, one person getting out, going, just running. All right, so there was one man.
That was at Rosemead Boulevard, a foot bail out of the back of the car. We'll see if anyone else ditches this vehicle. So we know there were at least 3 people inside of this car right now. At least two remain in the front 2 seats. We'll see if anyone else emerges from the back once again, as we just saw there.
And, you know, of course, we want to keep our focus on this car, but I'm sure CHP, they've got multiple units behind. So one of those officers at least will go and try to find that suspect who took off running. Not sure he's going to get very far, but it is a very busy time of day right now. 5:30 on a Sunday as people heading home. This is why it's so dangerous when these drivers, they take off in surface streets, and you've got a lot of unsuspecting people just enjoying their Sunday evening. So be on the lookout if you are in this area.
Yeah, we've seen several pedestrians just standing on the side of the road, and you imagine one just accident, one slip of the steering wheel, the wheels on the road, and this could turn into something extremely tragic. Now driving on the wrong side of Slauson Avenue as we continue westbound here at Chapin Road, and we are now entering southwest San Gabriel Valley. And just really dangerous speeds, really dangerous maneuvers. Again, we're going under, I believe, would that be the 19? We continue here on Slauson.
And he just has no regard for any of the rules of the road, going through stop signs, going through red lights, swerving in and out of lanes, going onto the wrong side of the road. We've seen him drive on the shoulder several times. Look at this, just, turning corners quickly. If we can pan out just so that we can see where those CHP officers are. Earlier when they did the pit maneuver, they were quite close behind. But is he slowing down here? We got another suspect on the run.
2 more out.
2 more. Okay, and is that possibly
Watcher Street and Greenwood Ave. Someone in a hoodie, 2 people emerged. So here we go again. We have 3 people who have bailed from this vehicle. That was someone from the front seat, I believe, on the right passenger side, and someone in the back seat on the left driver's side. At least they're slowing down here for a pedestrian crossing a crosswalk. At least you can say that they're not intentionally putting these people at that much of a risk. But here we go. By their actions, they are still putting people at severe risk, driving through intersections, burning through lights, stop signs, and not slowing down now.
I love how those people just got out of the car like, no, nothing to see here, nothing's wrong.
Casually, didn't run.
How's it going?
Slowly moving.
Yeah, and now this person, from what it looks like from Air 7 HD here, about 55 to 60 miles per hour on surface streets, really just putting other people in danger as they cruise through. But as we zoom out here, I don't see CHP close at all. Is
Making
that
another left turn here?
Yeah. So
this is from Gage onto Emile Ave, I believe,
and coming up to Hannon Street. So the question is, where is CHP? At what point? Maybe they decided to back off because it's too dangerous on these side streets here. They obviously have the helicopter overhead and they're keeping track, possibly in tracking mode. And, we talked about this. Sometimes they'll do that because they don't want to agitate the driver. But we've seen 3 people get out of the car. This car has been through 1 successful pit maneuver. It looked like they lost a fender of something, of some sort. Here's the pit maneuver that you're seeing on your screen there. Boom, so well done by the CHP, but that didn't slow them down. They just kept on going. So live right now, looks like we are on Gage Avenue, approaching Garfield Avenue, in about the Southgate, East LA area.
Yeah, they circled back around to Gage Avenue. We've seen several freeways be used in this pursuit. It began in Alhambra. Again, we believe 5 people were once inside of this vehicle. If that was the case, that would mean there are 2 people left inside. We have seen within the last 5 minutes, 3 people bail, 2 from the back seat, 1 from the front passenger seat. There is at least the driver, and we believe there may be 1 other person inside of here just blowing through intersections now, still on Gage Avenue, I believe heading back east towards the 5 freeway, which should be approaching that shortly. And when it reaches the 5, it meets back up with Slauson Avenue, which is how this car got from the 605 over to this neighborhood here in the Southgate, LA area. 46 miles an hour on Gage Avenue, according to our SkyMap 7 technology, which isn't extremely fast, but just the maneuvers this driver is pulling, just weaving around cars. And there we have the airship overhead tracking this. Even when the officers on the ground had backed off and called off the pursuit, there was still the airship tracking this driver from above. So they never lost him, but we'll see where it heads now. It's hard to get away. We'll see if they're able to track down these 3 people who have bailed, because there were no pursuing officers on the ground at the time, which explains why the guys so casually exited the vehicle and didn't feel the need to run, because there were no officers to run from.
You know, and a lot of times from the authorities that we've spoken to about these pursuits, they typically know who's in the car. They know where they live. They have all of their information. So sometimes it's just a matter of finding them and tracking them down. It's unclear, though, if all of the people in the car were being pursued. We understand that there was at least one assault suspect, but there could be more inside the car. Who knows who the police is actually going after. But certainly this driver is not slowing down. The driver does not want to get caught. Those 3 people who took off running, it's unclear, again, how they're associated with this driver, but we can tell he's not going to be slowing down anytime soon.
So we're heading westbound on Gage. They just crossed over the LA River and the 710 freeway, now heading westbound on Gage. That's going to put you a little bit closer to downtown LA, the Huntington Park area.
And that's, you can see the people that got off, that was video of those people getting out of the car. It looks like it was at Greenwood Avenue, kind of just strolling along. And it appears that because CHP wasn't around, they just were very casual about it. But I'm sure the CHP knows who was in that car, and if not, they will probably find out very soon.
So now still westbound on Gage, approaching Southgate in the city of the neighborhood of Bell. Cudahy is just to the south. Huntington Park they're approaching now, and it looks like either going to drive on. Is there a lane there?
Doesn't look like it. Not a lane. Okay. Now there is, but
yeah, it was shielded by that building. Just couldn't tell. Turning right now onto Atlantic. So now heading northbound on Atlantic. Let's get Atlantic up here. Okay, heading from Bell up towards Maywood. And again, squeezing through, cars stopped at lights. I assume that's a red light since other cars were not going through. So that's another red light blown through, heading towards Maywood. And again, this would once again hit Slauson Avenue, which he's driven on before, and then could potentially put him back up towards the 710.
So sometimes we see these drivers, they'll go to the neighborhoods that they're most familiar, where they live, possibly where they frequent. And so when you see them going in circles, a lot of times they're just trying to figure out what is the best exit strategy and how am I going to get to where I need to go, which is obviously away from the CHP officers. But if they go into neighborhoods that they're unfamiliar with, it's going to be harder for them to make sure that they're not going to get caught by the CHP. But you can see the driver there in the front, windows rolled down. Looks to be like he is now pulling into, what is this, a strip mall?
At Slauson, there is a shopping center here, maybe using it as another cut through. We've seen that happen several times. And there is Slauson, going to make a right on Slauson once again and head back towards the 710. And back towards the 5 and back towards the 605. This is like a little center of area. We've seen this driver continue around doing loops.
Oh, careful.
Children in the crosswalk. And going to pull a U-turn and head back westbound on Slauson.
Yeah, oh, so scary to see.
Anytime you see a pursuit like this and you see kids walking, not only on the sidewalk, but through an intersection like that.
We have seen pursuit suspects just blow through pedestrians.
Terrifying.
It's really
scary.
This looks
like a right back onto Atlantic. We're heading northbound once again.
And just to also reiterate, we are not seeing CHP behind them closely, and that's probably because they don't want to antagonize this driver. He's already driving extremely aggressively. Likely they're just following him through their chopper right now. But he is swerving all over these streets here.
Yeah, can we back out a little bit and see what traffic is like up ahead? It's scary to see this car go this fast. You get lose a little perspective when you're zoomed in like that and can't tell just how fast they're going.
Right.
But they are moving.
Yeah.
And okay, so we see some cars up ahead slowing down, and Let's see what this guy's going to do now. I think the window is still open. We could see if we go all the way in and see how far and how close we can see this driver. It looks like maybe wearing a blue long sleeve sweatshirt or shirt.
Looks white to me, but yeah, it could be blue. But yeah, it almost looks like he's kind of trying to decide, am I going to go with the flow of traffic? Am I going to drive recklessly and get around everybody? Is it worth it? Or should I just kind of let these other people pass me?
Yeah, this is now Atlantic Boulevard hitting the 710. So there's beneath the 710 deciding whether he's going to stay on these side streets, which he has found to be enabling him to go a little faster and further. That is when pursuing authorities have backed off, when he's been on these side streets, and that seems to be the case right now. So maybe doesn't want to get back on the 710, making a left onto Bandini Boulevard and crossing back under the 710 freeway. So now heading westbound on Bandini.
I'm sure there's a part of him that understands, like, the CHP isn't here right now, at least in my eye line. And so there may be some temporary relief in the mind of the driver that he wasn't feeling on the 5 freeway with all those cops behind him.
Chris Christie, who's normally up in Air 7 on these pursuits, tells me LAPD is now getting into position, so maybe taking over this pursuit from CHP. They have not been on the freeway for quite some time. We'll see if these following officers get there. They are downtown right now, but once again, he keeps turning around. So back on Bandini, heading back towards downtown LA, heading westbound right now.
And downtown LA on a Sunday afternoon, I mean, you've got people at bars, you have a lot of pedestrians going out enjoying their food, and also a lot of traffic. So it's going to be harder for this guy to actually get through all of the car traffic that he's going to need to in order to escape the LAPD if they are able to get on his tail. So, but because... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the good news is some of this area is more industrial. You won't see as many people out on the street as you would if he continues a little further west. But Bandini kind of ends and turns into 37th Street and gets a little smaller. So we'll see what happens when these lanes begin to shrink down.
Yeah, it almost feels like he's kind of slowing down just a little bit, kind of taking it a little bit easier than he was earlier when we saw him just going through stop signs, stop lights, and especially after that pit maneuver by that CHP officer on the street. It turned him around. He lost a part of the car, and then he kept on going. It feels like he's kind of taking a breath.
Running a red light here.
Running a red light.
Oncoming traffic doesn't know what to do. There's one car coming through, the rest stopping.
At least he's going slow. That's all. I mean, we can give him a little bit of credit, I guess.
So dangerous.
Super dangerous because he is definitely not following the rules of the road here.
That was Bandini and Downey Road. So in the neighborhood of Hobart, continuing to head west on Bandini. Next up should be Soto is the next major intersection, then Santa Fe Avenue, and then the road kind of shrinks down. We'll see what he does. But driving as if there's not a care in the world, Veronica. There's no pursuing officers right now, just casually, leisurely driving on Bandini. You can see this is a very industrial area, so there's not a lot of traffic. There's not a lot of foot traffic, which we're thankful to see right now.
Yeah, because just a little bit ago, we want to show you video when he was about to go through a crosswalk where there were children and people crossing. You can see right here, just does a U-turn quickly. Luckily, he slowed down a little bit, but it's those situations that can get so scary because these pedestrians, they don't know that there's a car chase coming their way.
Right turn now onto Soto Street, going north on Soto, crossing over the LA River for about the 3rd time in the last 4 minutes, heading into Soto Street Junction. And that's going to put him up back towards the 5 and Boyle Heights. It's where the 10 meets the 5. So there's another option to get back on the freeway if he continues north on Soto. We'll see if he does that. But for now, just kind of slowly cruising through these streets. Again, we've seen 3 people bail from this vehicle. The driver remains, and there may or may not be a 5th person inside of this car. This, again, started, we believe, about an hour ago in the Alhambra area.
That's right. According to the CHP, we're told that there was at least one assault suspect in the car that they were going after. But then, of course, as we've been watching throughout this pursuit, we've seen multiple people get out of the car. So it's unclear who the assault suspect was or why this driver is trying to take off and how they're all associated with each other, which, of course, we'll find out more information in just a little bit.
Once again, here's the video on the right side of your screen of one of these foot bails. I believe this is the one where 2 people get out. Watch the front passenger door open. There's someone in a hoodie jump out of the back on the left side.
So casual.
Just walk to the sidewalk.
Oh,
stopping at a red light now. This is Soto and Olympic. Are we joined by Chris Christie right now?
We are. Hi, Chris.
Hey there,
are you on the
guys.
phone
How
with
are
us? Hi.
Yeah, by the way, making a left onto Olympic now.
Chris, quite a dangerous pursuit here. We haven't seen something like this in a few weeks at least.
Well, yeah, exactly right. And what really is cause for alarm here is that, to my understanding, this guy just committed a crime, if I'm not mistaken, in a cemetery. Is that right? Which really raises the stakes. I mean, that's a situation where law enforcement is not going to let him get away. They're tracking him from above. You have multiple agencies involved. At this point, you've got LA County Sheriff, who originated the pursuit, from my understanding, CHP, who was obviously involved for a while and is still following, I believe, from overhead. And then you have LAPD waiting once he gets into their jurisdiction. So you have three agencies, not to mention Whittier and some other agencies that he traveled through, everybody monitoring this guy. He's dropped off 3 passengers. The driver himself, obviously the main target at this point, just to get him off the road.
Yeah.
We know
Chris,
that he's
again,
armed and
blowing
dangerous,
through a red light here. Sorry to interrupt.
You have another red light, and he hasn't really shown any signs for slowing down for many of them. He's gone through a number of red lights. The driving has been erratic into oncoming lanes of traffic at times, all recipes for disaster. None of this is a good indication, but they had that one opportunity to try the pit maneuver. And it was a unique opportunity because for most of this pursuit, which is now more of a following from above, but for most of this pursuit, he's just been going too fast for a pit maneuver. And that one opportunity where he slowed down to right around 30 to 40 miles per hour, you saw they gave the go-ahead. They tried, but that SUV obviously was able to regain control.
Yeah, there also wasn't a second officer, Chris, to kind of pull up and stop him from being able to drive away. There was only one pursuing officer that pulled off the pit maneuver, and it was effective. There was just no one else to pull up and block his egress there.
Right. Exactly. So it was just slow enough that he was able to do a perfect textbook pit maneuver, but he didn't have the backup behind him. A lot of times you'll see them immediately move into position. You have a primary unit that'll execute the pit maneuver, but you normally need that secondary unit and that supervisor behind to go ahead and box him in. They didn't have that in that case. And with that SUV, he was able to endure the pit maneuver and then keep on going.
So we are now in the Arts District. This is 7th Street and Santa Fe Avenue. They just passed by. If you know where Two Bit Circus is, that's where the area where this driver was. It looks like heading back east now, which is good news, back towards less populated areas. But just driving through on a Sunday, there are several establishments, restaurants. There are museums over there. Two Bit Circus is a place that's going to draw a crowd on a Sunday. And now heading east on Anderson, the 7th Street, back towards the 5 freeway, the 10, the 101, where the freeways, and now going through this interchange right now. And picking up speeds here. He had kind of chilled out for a little bit, but we're seeing him run red lights, speed up, slow down, go kind of driving erratically here. And as, the sun starts to go down, it's going to make things a little bit trickier as well. But Chris, what I think is quite interesting is that CHP or any units really have completely backed off besides the airship. Do you think it's because they're not trying to get this guy to do anything crazier than he already has?
Yeah, I have the feeling it's very intentional in this situation, especially knowing or having some background of how this started, where he apparently was involved in a possible stabbing in a cemetery. So we already know emotions are very, very high. It's very difficult a lot of times to predict what's going through a driver's head who's fleeing the police. In this case, we know he just committed a crime, but we know emotions are high. This happened at a cemetery. What happened at that cemetery? What drove him? What agitated him on this afternoon to engage in this kind of reckless behavior? We don't know, but it's a safe assumption that his blood pressure and his emotions are getting the better of him at this point, regardless of his background. So they're going to give him a little bit of space to breathe, especially as long as they have eyes on him from above. But because of the nature of the crime and because of the way he's driving, it's still going to be a priority. This is unlikely to be one where they just let him go.
Right.
That happens sometimes, where they decide, you know what, if he ran a red light, we can't catch up with him. It's not worth the public safety, putting them at risk. In this case, they really look at right through another red light here.
Geez, just flying through. Oh my goodness.
It's just so dangerous. Now he's in, well into East LA here. So LAPD, I would have to imagine, is going to try and get in position as soon as possible here. And maybe they are just not in our shot here.
Yeah.
But they're monitoring very closely, right underneath the 10 freeway there.
Right. This is so north on Boyle. He's circled around and looped a bit near the interchange of the 60, the 10, the 5, and the 101. This is on Boyle. This should be 4th. Yeah, so running another red light through 4th Street. Luckily, no cars were coming through at that time. Next major intersection is going to be 1st Street as this car continues to just speed recklessly through neighborhoods now. You see a 4-way stop that he just continued to go through, driving through the turn lane now.
Yeah, this guy just does not care. Oh, look at that. And see, skateboarder right there. Yeah. Like, those are the kinds of things that can really get so dangerous. We've seen pursuit drivers hit and run over people on a scooter and keep going. Yeah, super scary to see this. And again, just going through these intersections here, we hope I mean, not like people who are driving know that there's a pursuit, or these pedestrians, unless they're looking at their phones. But that's always dangerous too, if this person comes through and you don't see them coming. That can always be extremely dangerous, Chris.
Yeah, he seems to have pretty decent control of the vehicle, but with a heavy SUV like that, it just takes one wrong turn, a little too fast, and that vehicle could lose control very, very quickly. And obviously, the way he's running these red lights, crosswalks, it is just so scary when you see a vehicle like that plowing through these intersections.
Luckily, caught the light there at Soto, continuing eastbound, east on 1st now. Evergreen should be the next major intersection, but there are these intersections the entire way. You see people on bicycles on the sidewalk, a car turning left in front of him that could have nearly clipped the rear end there, and continuing through here. This is just passing, was that Matthews or Santiago? Here comes Evergreen, and we'll see what happens, whether he catches the light already through and continuing eastbound.
Yeah, wow, absolutely wild. We've seen this guy. He's been on highways, a lot of city streets here, spending the majority of the pursuit, I would say now, on city streets. I think probably because he may know this area. We've seen him kind of do circles, really staying around the same region here. Hitting Gage and Wilcox quite a bit, Jory in the East LA area.
Yeah, ironically, I'm not sure if I saw a flash there. I wasn't sure if that might have been a red light camera that maybe got him going through. How ironic. And just does not care. Now this should be left from 1st onto staying on 1st. Yeah, the road kind of curves around, but heading towards Indiana, right? It dead ends at Indiana, makes a little bit of a left and a right to continue through Hazard to Belvedere and back towards the 710 freeway. So still on 1st Street heading eastbound. There's a middle school, Belvedere Middle here, that will come up on the right side of the road, and just continuing to blow through intersections. Doesn't look like he's driving at a terrible speed right now, just about 40, 45 miles an hour, which I would guess on these roads.
Oh, but look at wrong side of the road.
Wrong side, and again, going through a red light. So just no regard for the safety of other drivers, anyone walking. We've seen a person on a skateboard, people on bicycles, and the search continues.
You just want to make sure that, you just hope that everybody is driving defensively, especially as the sun goes down, and just make sure that they're keeping an eye out, because very easily this guy could run a red light and hit someone by accident as he's trying to get away. But again, what's also interesting, Chris, is that he continues to drive somewhat erratically here through these city streets, despite the fact that there's no lights and sirens behind him.
Yeah, he's still running the red lights. He's still crossing over those double yellow lines. So he's still driving extremely aggressively and very dangerously, despite the fact that law enforcement has given him that space. But what more can they do at this point other than to let him calm down, slow down a little bit? He's slowed down a little bit. He's not driving quite as fast as he was, but he's still driving very aggressively, very recklessly. This is why they would rather see this on the freeway. If you're going to have a pursuit like this, especially on a Sunday afternoon, you'd much rather see him get on the freeway and let CHP get into position. They can kind of block him in. They can throw out a spike strip if they have an opportunity. If traffic is light enough, it's unlikely, but it's been done before often, and CHP's experts at this. So when you have a suspect on the freeway, it's one thing. When you're on surface streets like this person is, it's much more complicated. It's much more difficult to predict what his next turn is going to be, what his next move is going to be. If he establishes a pattern, you would expect to see LAPD waiting at some of these
wrong side of the road
crosswalks.
Again. Our view is obstructed, but wrong side of the road, heading northbound on Ford.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh my goodness.
So dangerous, and like I said, with an SUV like that, he has a potential to do so much damage. You saw those folks in the crosswalk earlier. Seems to be in a little more of a commercial area.
And here we go.
Now back on the 710 northbound freeway. You know, I hazard to say that this is a relief to see, only because there are no pedestrians. There's no one who can get struck. There's no red light you can cross. Obviously, when you talk about top speeds, Chris, that you see on the freeway, the potential for a catastrophic crash and innocent people who are driving on the freeway grows. But they would be protected by their car, at least, as opposed to just getting struck walking across the road by a large SUV moving at high speeds.
And now he's certainly picking up speed. Oh, sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I mean, we're bound to see him continue. He's going to pick up the pace a little bit. He's going to take every opportunity to weave through the traffic. He's not the type of driver who's just going to stop with the flow of traffic. If he does run into a little bit of a traffic backup, I bet you anything we'll see him pull onto that shoulder. You can see he's really starting to pick up some more speed now, and traffic doesn't look too heavy here. So he's got an opportunity to, exert a little more gas. Of course, we have no idea how much gas is in the gas tank. Is he getting off here?
No, this is the 710-10 interchange. So he's on a ramp. We'll see. So maybe go on the 10 westbound.
West, yeah.
So transitioning to the 10, yeah. So I would imagine, now that we're on the freeway, it would almost surprise me if we don't see CHP at least close in on him a little bit, even if they don't come up right behind him. They might be just outside of the shot. We'll see here.
Hopefully,
but I would imagine that they are getting into position at this point.
Hopefully, they're waiting a few exits up, because we really haven't seen any sign of LAPD or CHP in the last 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's been some time.
It's been quite a while. So,
and interesting here. Sorry, Veronica. You can see this is the first time I've seen a car pass him. So he allowed that pickup truck on the right to pass him by. This is the first time we've seen him not drive on a freeway with such urgency, just kind of trying to blend in, maybe?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. He might be thinking like, okay, maybe because there's a lot of traffic here, I can just worm my way through and they'll forget that I even exist. But that's not the case, because we know CHP, that airship, has been monitoring him and tracking him this entire time. It's possible that, once he starts to see those lights and sirens behind him, then he might start picking speeds back up.
Right. So here we are, 10 westbound, again, heading back towards downtown Los Angeles. We'll see how far this lasts on the freeway. We've seen it hop on and off several freeways, the 710, I think the 5 for a short time. Drove around Pico-Rivera, making it all the way west to the Arts District, and heading now westbound on the 10 freeway, Ramona Gardens area, City Terrace area right now. And we'll see where this winds up.
Looks like he's really got some good luck on this afternoon with the freeway traffic. Not a whole lot to get in his way here. He's kind of just staying in that middle lane and pushing the pedal to the metal. He's got to be doing close to 90 miles per hour, I would say.
Yeah, lucky any other day, I think, at this time of day, coming up on 6 o'clock in the top of the hour, this would be a jam-packed 10 freeway heading towards Los Angeles. But lucky, you're right, Chris, caught it at this time. And it continues on, driving at a high rate of speed, passing traffic 80 miles an hour, 82, which, as pursuits go, it's not as fast as we've seen, and as LA driving goes, if you have any open road, it's kind of, left lane appropriate.
That's right. And speaking of coming up here to the top of the hour, if you are with us here on digital, we're going to be transitioning back to on the air on ABC 7. You can continue to stream this, but we're going to have to take a quick pause so that we can get prepared for our show in about 90 seconds here.
All right, we continue westbound on the 10 freeway. This is a pursuit that's lasted the better part of an hour now, maybe a little more. Started in Alhambra. with an assault suspect. We believe there were 5 people, maybe up to 5 people inside of this SUV. Along the way, over the last 45 minutes, we've seen 3 passengers hop out at 2 different locations. First, someone hopped out of the back seat. About 10 minutes later, 2 more people popped out, one in the front passenger side, one in the rear driver's side. So we know the driver is left and possibly 1 more person inside. At several times, we've seen authorities back off of this pursuit. We're not sure if they're going to re-engage here once this driver, now that he is re-entered on freeway traffic and has been driving at pretty good speeds. But so far, I'm not sure if we see any lights in the distance in pursuit, but if there are not, we expect to see some momentarily.
And Chris was telling us earlier he had heard that whoever was in the car may be a possible suspect in a stabbing at a cemetery. We understand that at least one of the possible 5 passengers in that car that started in the pursuit may have at least one of them was an assault suspect. But we're still trying to get more information on who all of those passengers were. As Jory said, we know 3 people have already gotten out of the car. One of them took off running. 2 people kind of casually strolled out onto the street when CHP was not following. So we're trying to also get confirmation if those people have been arrested. But I think the focus right now for CHP is on this car. We're going to be transitioning over to ABC 7. Stay with us. Yeah,
stick around. If you're streaming, continue on there if you don't have access to a television. Otherwise, you can join us right now on ABC.
This is Eyewitness News with live breaking news.
Okay, thank you for joining us. We begin our broadcast here at 6 o'clock with breaking news on ABC 7 and streaming on our free ABC 7 Los Angeles app. A dangerous police chase is happening right now.
That's exactly right. And what we're looking at, it looks like finally we have the CHP right behind. We've got 1, 2, 3, at least 4 units in our vantage point. And, you know, they backed off for quite a while because they didn't want to agitate the drivers, what we assume. It looks like one of the CHP officers has his door open. But we see this driver in the Suburban. He is inching forward. So it doesn't look like this driver is ready to give up yet, Jory.
Yeah, and stopped at a red light. We'll see what happens when this light turns green because this driver is currently blocked in by those 3 cars at the front of this line. But once that light turns green, and here we go. The cars are going to drive, and you have to believe he will as well, and he does. As we're driving on Arcadia, just paralleling the 101 freeway below and making a U-turn and heading back down, maybe getting onto the 101 again. This would be south or eastbound.
And we are off to the races once
here we go.
again. Yep, the 101 southbound.
Yeah, the Chris Christie is joining us on the phone. Chris.
Yeah, I was just going to say what's ironic about it is that I think the reason he got off of the 101 freeway at Alameda there was because traffic basically was coming to a dead stop. But him getting off there actually gave CHP the opportunity to catch up, so they weren't too far behind him. And now you see they're going to continue this pursuit going the opposite direction, now going southbound on the 101 freeway. So we'll see if he stays on the 101 freeway. But now you have a hot pursuit with several CHP units involved. They are going to now amp up the pressure just a little bit here and hopefully close in on him.
Yeah,
but he is still all over the paint.
Pulling a little okie doke there to a pursuing officer, feigned getting off at that exit and just pulled right back on. And the pursuing officer lost a spot in this chase. You
can see exactly why CHP backed off for so long, because this chase now is really getting really dangerous once again. He's weaving in and out of traffic here. Here on the 101 South, it's not like, there's no cars on the road on this Sunday evening. And so it just increases the chance of dangerous conditions for these drivers who are also on the road. Let's take a look back at our first and only pit maneuver of this pursuit. This was actually on a surface street, and that CHP driver executes a beautiful pit maneuver there, but the driver is completely unaffected. And as Chris Christie, you were saying, there was not a second CHP officer to kind of stop him once that pit maneuver was made possible. Yeah, if you've been watching on the left, there was a pedestrian about to cross the street, and he stopped in his tracks as this pursuit came through, then blew through another red light.
traveling now on 4th Street, hitting 4th and Santa Ana. He's already been on this road before, circled back around about a half an hour ago, and now once again on side streets with pursuit in tow, which has been bad news for the safety of those around.
Yeah,
because as these cars have come through, you see a pursuing officer now driving on the wrong side of the street. They're taking this very seriously and looking to bring this to an end now.
Yeah.
If you see these officers again drive, they're driving on the wrong side of the street as this driver continues to drive with reckless abandon without concern for the safety of those around him.
And that's also what makes it dangerous, is when these officers potentially get in a car crash with another car, other pedestrians, because they're trying to get this driver to slow down. So this has spanned for the better at least an hour here. Started in Alhambra and has weaved its way in and out of the highways. We're back on surface streets, but it is very clear that this driver does not want to get caught tonight.
Yeah, driving now on Soto Street, which again is another road we've talked about this driver being on some time ago. And just look at the speed that we're going here. This is a side street we're talking about, and this is probably, it looks like 50, 60 miles an hour. And just, again, one person crossing the road as you cross here, crossing beneath the 5 freeway, and the 10 freeway should be right there as well. This is the interchange of the 10, 60, and the 5. It's just so dangerous. Just one little thing goes wrong and you're talking about someone being sent to the hospital, or worse, not even making it to the hospital.
Yeah, we want to show you video again of how dangerous this pursuit has been, and also at times when the suspects, at least 3 of the suspects or 3 people and passengers in this car have jumped out. This guy, as you're watching here, he's just going to start running, boom, as the car is even still going, and takes off. At this point, I don't believe that CHP was behind, so it's possible that that guy got away at this point. And then the next time that other people got out of the car, this is going to be 2 passengers, one from the driver's side and one from the back there. They get out and they kind of stroll onto Greenwood Avenue.
We have Chris Christie on the line still. Chris, let's talk about when they're driving through a neighborhood like this, the pursuing officers, lights, I'm guessing, and sirens, just to let everyone know they're coming. You don't want someone not paying attention, not hearing you coming and crossing the street.
That's right. Everybody could hear these guys coming now. It was a little bit of a sigh of relief a little while ago when he was on the 101, and it just hurts to see him get off the freeway again, back onto surface streets. But as you mentioned, fortunately, we have several units involved now. They have their lights and sirens on, and sure, people can hear it coming in their direction. But as the sun goes down and night starts to fall, that increases the chances that the driver himself may not see somebody crossing the street. So what I'm looking for here is he continues through these smaller surface streets. He's going to be forced to slow down like he is right here, and they will likely, if there's nobody else around, if he gets on a stretch of the road where there's not too much traffic, they may give the go-ahead for another pit maneuver. And if they do that this time, they've got other units in place to try and block him in. That's a luxury that they did not have for that first pit maneuver, which did a little bit of damage but was not enough to stop the vehicle. Now he's slowing down. You see there's some room to work with. He's still going through those red lights, but as he slows down for some of those turns, they may go ahead with that next pit maneuver.
Yeah, this is 8th Street, just crossed over Soto, now making a right, I believe, onto Boyle Avenue. This is, again, right around the interchange of the 5 and the 10, the 101. Heading north on Boyle Avenue, you're going to see more freeways, I think, come into your shot here. Yep, there is the 5 once again. This is the north side of that 3-way interchange of the 101, the 5, and the 10. Been circling around this area, one of several areas we've seen kind of repeat through, cycle through, now making a left onto, is this 7th Street? Yep, back onto 7th Street. So heading west on 7th Street, across the freeway, and continue again across the LA River and back into the Arts District, which again on a Sunday night is full of pedestrians, full of people going out to eat, going to bars, going, I keep mentioning 2-Bit Circus, but that's going to draw a crowd maybe of various ages. You might have some kids there as well.
Yeah, we saw him hit 2 green lights there, probably his only green lights in this entire pursuit. He has been running red after red after red, and just blowing through stop signs, and that's really what makes this so dangerous. He's hitting out of the green here, but he's just really taking those corners so tightly, going into the other lanes really, and just taking these officers on a really wild chase here through these streets. That it's just so quite dangerous. You can see the Arts District murals there. A lot of people probably going to the bars tonight, Sunday evening, spending time outside. It was a really nice day after quite a rainy Saturday. So we're hoping that he stays in an area that's more industrial like this. But look at that.
Good that he turned left on Mateo and not right, because we're getting more, the further south you go on Mateo, the more industrial it gets, the further away from the Arts District you're getting. And there should be Olympic Boulevard. Just turning without stopping into oncoming traffic, nearly hitting a car and crossing back over to the right side of the road. Man, that is another really close call.
Oof.
Yeah, that was so, and that driver had no idea it was coming. Look he passed a CHP unit going the other direction. Hopefully they're staggering themselves ahead, so maybe possibly do some kind of pit maneuver or spike strips. Would they do spike strips on these surface streets, Chris?
Yeah, this is an ideal conditions for a spike strip. The problem is you have to have a little bit of a beat. You have to establish some kind of a pattern so you can get units in place. What we're looking for here, I think, is actually going to be the pit maneuver, especially as we get into a more commercialized area where there's a little bit less pedestrian traffic and fewer cars in general. But he's got to slow down. They won't do that pit maneuver unless he drops down to about 35, maybe 40 miles per hour. But 35 is kind of the sweet spot, 35 miles per hour for an effective and safe pit maneuver.
Yeah, luckily last time he was able to get him on a turn. This is it right here.
Yeah.
Turning from Pioneer onto Waddell.
Boom,
and
right there.
It was great. It executed perfectly, popped him up onto the elevated median strip. But
it looked like it could have been over.
Yeah, there was no one there to stop his escape, and that's where he went. So again, on the left side of your screen is live, traveling about 60 miles an hour on Olympic Boulevard, going eastbound back through Boyle Heights, back eastbound towards Lorena Street, Soto Street Junction, on the wrong side of the road, blowing through another red light. So lucky that these intersections are abandoned and there aren't cars coming through. This is about half a dozen we've seen right now where he's gone through like this at full speed.
Maybe we can get in a little tighter into the driver. I know earlier he had his window open, and I know it's a little bit more difficult to see inside these cars, especially as the sun goes down. It looks like the night sun from the CHP chopper is illuminating this car, but hopefully we can get a closer look at that driver in just a little bit here. We understand there might even be another passenger inside that car. We've been told possibly 5 suspects, but we know that those 3 suspects we showed you earlier have already jumped out of the car and taken off.
And at this point, no longer suspects. They committed crimes by fleeing police and then getting out and running. So we know that they have committed crimes. This driver is in pursuit right now. We don't know for sure. We talked about possible stabbing in a cemetery that Chris Christie brought up. But
whoa! Look at that passenger or that pedestrian right there. Jeez, that person was obviously just trying to get across there, and that car almost hit them.
Yeah, not expecting a car to be speeding on the wrong side of the road as you just want to cross the street. It's so dangerous. The longer this goes, the more desperate this driver gets. And the faster he's driving again. Now opposite direction on the turn lane, back into regular side of traffic, over 60 miles an hour on Olympic Boulevard.
And you see actually what's interesting, some of these drivers, they can see the lights and sirens coming, the pursuit coming, and so they've been pulling over, which is great for them, anticipating that danger. But I do get worried about the cars coming from the opposite direction, potential head-on collision could possibly happen.
Yeah, made a right onto Telegraph Road as we head into East Los Angeles, now crossing under the 710-5 interchange. This continues to go further away from downtown Los Angeles, but still through very heavily populated areas. Telegraph parallels the 5 as it heads towards the Citadel outlets. And we'll see what happens when he gets over that direction, because we're only a short way, maybe about a quarter mile from the Citadel outlets. Whether this is going to be a point where he wants to ditch the car, lose himself somewhere in a crowd.
Whoa! Did he just clip that car? He just clipped that car. Oh my goodness. That car was trying to get out of the way and he clipped the back of it.
And took off a piece either of his own car or the back rear bumper, left side bumper of that car. Man.
So dangerous. It's so incredible, Chris, that didn't cause a bigger collision. But that's the kind of danger that we're looking at.
Right. And if you notice here, it does look like once again CHP has backed off at least a little bit, because I haven't seen them in the shop for at least a couple of minutes now. So they're giving him, once again, a little more space to breathe, just to, bring that temperature down. But now I see another one right behind him here. I'm watching on a little bit of a delay with you guys. But yeah, it's very, very scary conditions for a chase like this, especially in this part of East LA. It's this part of town is a little bit hairy in general, so keeping up with him as these roads transition and weave underneath the East LA interchange.
Yeah, now getting onto the 5 freeway from Eastern Avenue, now heading southbound on the 5 freeway. It's tense watching this, knowing he's back on the freeway. We can at least take a breath, knowing that there won't be anybody, no more red lights and no one crossing the road, at least until he gets back off and starts doing this all over again.
Yeah, but and take a look at this wrong side driving from earlier. I mean, it just shows that it doesn't matter if he is on the highway, if he's on surface streets. This person is really willing to do whatever it takes to get away from these CHP officers, even though they have been tracking him and monitoring him this entire time. So you got to wonder why. It looks like he's also driving on the shoulder right now, getting into more traffic than he probably anticipated. But of course, there's going to be traffic tonight at 6 o'clock on a Sunday. Everybody's going home.
Welcome to LA. This is driving through Commerce. That was the Commerce Casino on the bottom of your screen. So just passing Commerce Casino, heading further south on the 5 freeway, and we'll see how long he takes down here. It's so much easier to breathe now watching him on a freeway. It's still dangerous. He's still speeding and he's still weaving and driving. It looks like almost on the shoulder. Might take it off the road here, but it's just a different tone and tenor when he's on a freeway as opposed to just racing through neighborhoods and side streets like he has been doing.
And Jory, we're just
he's got about another mile of stop and go traffic, and that's going to give CHP a little bit of time here. The silver lining to all of this traffic, it's kind of slowing him down and giving CHP not only the units behind him to catch up and keep a close eye on him, but it also gives units ahead to potentially set up for a spike strip at the exit ramps, and it also gives them a little bit of time to shut off some of the traffic behind them to clear off the freeway. So they can actually form a traffic break behind him if they see an opportunity. Right now, it's a little bit too congested,
once again on
but they are following from behind. You see the night sun coming from that CHP helicopter up above there, so they've got eyes on him from a number of different angles, but the slower speed that he's doing because of all of this traffic on a Sunday night is definitely playing to their advantage, gives them a chance to at least start thinking about a spike strip at some of the upcoming exit ramps.
Cutting it really close there on the shoulder. Going to do it again here. A tight squeeze along the retaining wall. Several cars just driving at speed on the shoulder and now pulling back into traffic.
And Chris and Jory, we're just learning from the LASD that the suspect, the driver, is actually wanted for assault with a deadly weapon. That deadly weapon is a gun. So it certainly elevates the criminal aspect of this and the tension for authorities, possibly why they backed off, because this could result in more than just a car accident, possibly a shootout, which we have seen. We've even seen it on the 5 freeway, not far from our station, at a pursuit that ended in a shootout around here.
That is a different thing. It's a different animal when you're talking about someone. Here we go, spinning out.
Whoa! Did he hit a spike strip? What exactly happened there?
Still
looks like the lights are flashing, and we've got
2 people bailing.
Okay, all right. So the driver, and CHP coming in hot. Oh, they're not going to be able to. Is that a fence there? They're not going to be able to. This is the wrong place to get out.
Driving across lanes of traffic, now crossing the street to a gas station. There was an Arco. One suspect dressed in all black, one with a white T-shirt and black shorts.
Oh, gosh, tripping over that.
Yeah,
not moving too quickly, considering the circumstances here. But they're cutting across that gas station parking lot.
This is at Slauson and Santa Ana.
There's another CHP
stopping,
unit.
The other one pulling up, and let's follow the one.
Okay. Oh, all right. It looks like the guy in the white, I believe, was the driver. So this is the main person that they potentially could be looking for.
You see the night sun is on one. There was a vehicle in pursuit of the other man who escaped that vehicle dressed in all black. So this guy running across, this is Zindale Avenue at Gage. There's train tracks. We'll see if he runs down the tracks where maybe cars aren't able to pursue. But that night sun is lighting up his escape, and he is dressed in a bright white T-shirt. So we'll see if we see any, maybe a canine officer or pursuing officers on foot. but he's not moving very well at all.
He is not. You got to wonder if he's possibly under, some controlled substances. Was he drinking? We really don't know. But yeah, there's an officer kind of in the distance there, but they do have that night sun on him, Chris. And so, but it's going in the wrong direction. Let's keep it on him.
Yeah, those in the sky are alerting the officers on the ground where to pursue, and here we go. So we have a patrol unit driving along the railroad tracks, and he's giving up.
Is he giving up? He did put his hands up. No, he's not. He's going on that fence.
Maybe a sign of exasperation that the pursuit continues, now hopping over a fence.
Yikes. Okay, falls onto the ground. Falls onto the ground. Looks like an officer is out. The guy falls.
Yeah, you can see that pursuing sheriff's deputy signaling, radioing in where he is going, hopping over another fence
and
into
that
a second
CHP
yard.
officer, look at him. He's trying to get over that fence too. He's scaled another fence there. That suspect, he's really not slowing down. But if you get, there's a dog on the other side, a German Shepherd. Not going to want to jump into that yard. He's going behind.
He's clearly running out of steam here, and as he kind of corners himself into this backyard, they are immediately going to start flooding the zone here.
Taking
and
off his white shirt.
Form a perimeter.
Yep, he just took off his white shirt now. So
Hands falling down as he moves rather slowly on, this is Todd Avenue. So walking down the sidewalk, still being lit up by the night sun. Of course, officers, deputies on the ground are being told by the airship that this person is no longer dressed in white, rather wearing a black tank top. And again, still fleeing on the sidewalk.
Well, he's walking now. Looks like he's really running out of steam here. It's just a matter of time before the CHP officers come and get him. It just got to wonder where they are.
So keep in mind, this is all happening while there is a second man on the run. We assume
there's that CHP officer.
Apprehended pretty quick.
CHP officer running in from behind. He's got kind of a light jog, this suspect, but he is done for.
Hands on his hips, either winded or to keep his pants up, and now it is over.
It is over. And get on the ground. There you go. All right. He's following orders. He's not being confrontational, which is good.
This might just be a matter of being out of energy to fight back or flee any longer, realizing he is out of gas and he's done. So he's on the ground. The pursuing sheriff's deputy now placing handcuffs on him. So that's one person in custody. At some point, we'll check back and see if we can see if there was a second person in custody.
I mean, we have 4 people who got out of that car at one point or another during this chase.
Yeah, we'll have to check with CHP. We'll have to check with LASD and LAPD to see whether they were able to pick up any of those 3 previous men who exited this SUV. But one person is now in custody.
Can we zoom in on this suspect here? Can we get a closer look here at the final end of this pursuit that started in Alhambra, has worked its way all the way through East LA. We went into the Arts District. A car was hit. There were some really close calls with passengers driving erratically all over the place. This is just the end of a very violent and dangerous pursuit, but that could have certainly been a lot worse.
Yeah, this is the Pico-Rivera area. Todd Avenue is where this capture has happened. I imagine they're not going to go back the way they came, since they ran through several yards, dirt area, and the railroad tracks. But remember, this deputy's vehicle is parked somewhere back over on the railroad tracks. I'm not sure. Can we see from Air 7 if the other man was captured by the sheriff's department? Because that is happening, I'm assuming, just a short distance away.
Yeah, he didn't get too far.
This guy was moving really slowly. The other guy wasn't moving much better, but he was out in front. So he was able to get a little further, but a sheriff's vehicle was able to pull up right in front of him. So I'm not sure if they were able to apprehend that man. But 4 cars now on the railroad tracks, and you can see those flashlights of deputies who are looking around. But that is where the deputy who was able to take that man into custody has parked his pursuit, his vehicle.
Well, at least we know the driver who was committing the most dangerous crimes on television here by, breaking all of the laws that you saw. We know that person is now in custody with CHP.
Right. I think if we go back to the left, is by that Arco gas station, there might have been that second man on the run. So these are the officers who were pulled up on the railroad tracks. I'm not sure if our eye in the sky in Air 7 HD can hear us, but if we can head back over towards that Arco station where this bailout commenced.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll work on it, but we'll get over there.
As we're doing that, let's take a look at that crash. You got to feel so bad for the driver, the unsuspecting driver who's just going about their day. And looks like actually this is going to be the one where did he hit a pole? He lost control of the car.
Yeah, I don't think there was a spike strip.
Yeah,
but just kind of lost control and spun out. Didn't